What is the Big Three? When you hear this term, you may assume that I'm talking about Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. That is probably the most iconic example of this term, but there are also many more examples that define what this word means. Going back to the topic of One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach, these animes and manga were called the Big Three due to how much popularity they had while being published around the same time. These animes were popular around the whole world, and we can see that they have had major influence on future shows and manga. When talking about these three different animes, you must remember that they are called the Big Three, not for how good they are. I mean, they still are very good, but because of how much popularity they had during the 2000s. Now let's get into another famous topic that everyone loves, superheroes. First off, let's start with DC, and I think it's safe to assume that the Big Three of this universe is fairly obvious. Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman. Batman and Superman are hands down the most popular superheroes to ever live, while also including Spider-Man. And it's proven by how many comics and movies of these two characters have been made. Some may argue that The Flash should replace Wonder Woman, but I believe that Wonder Woman is the most iconic female comic book character to ever exist. The Flash may have gained a lot of popularity over the last couple of years, but Wonder Woman will always be recognized as a member of the DC Trinity. Now let's talk about arguably the biggest movie franchise to ever exist, which is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Big Three of this universe is also fairly obvious, to say the least. These three characters are definitely the most important, and this is shown by the sheer amount of movies they have. Captain America has his own trilogy, Iron Man has his own trilogy, and Thor has 4 movies. I'm not saying that these trilogies alone helped establish the term known as the Big Three. We also have to take into account how important these characters were to the Avengers movies. In the first Avengers, it seemed like Iron Man and Captain America had the most importance. Age of Ultron also heavily focused on Iron Man and how he created Ultron. In Infinity War, everyone saw the journey of Thor and how his character arc grew. Endgame also focused heavily on Iron Man, once again, how his sacrifice helped save the world. In terms of superhero as a whole, me and a lot of other people would consider Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man to be the Big Three. The only character that I haven't mentioned yet is Spider-Man, so I will explain why he's considered a part of this trio. If we acknowledge how Spider-Man has the Sam Raimi trilogy, the Amazing Spider-Man trilogy, and the Tom Holland trilogy, it should be fairly obvious to know why he's this famous. This concept of Spider-Man being a simple person and someone who a lot of people can relate to is what makes everyone love him. The infamous mistake of him letting a random person go, who eventually killed his uncle, would show how even someone like Peter Parker can make mistakes and then try to fix them. These three superheroes are easily the most iconic, and it seems like it will stay that way forever. The term Big Three isn't just used for media, but it can also apply to sports. The Big Three of Barcelona, which is a football club, refers to the attacking trio of Messi, Suarez, and Neymar. But there have also been other trios in this club's history, such as Eto'o, Messi, and Henry. And then we have Pedro, David Villa, and Messi. Now let's move on to another famous trio, which comes from Liverpool. The attacking trio of Salah, Mane, and Robert Firmino, who led Liverpool to many trophies. We also can't forget about Madrid and the most iconic Big Three in their history, which consists of Bale, Benzema, and Ronaldo. This trio dominated the world for many years, and it was always a pleasure to watch them. The term Big Threes in rap also refers to the trio of Drake, Kendrick Lamar, and also J. Cole. Going back to sports, let's talk about some basketball Big Three such as LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, who played together for multiple years. Now let's move on to the Warriors. So the Big Three for the Warriors refers to the trio of Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. I don't know much about tennis, but I have heard about the Big Three in this sport, which typically consist of Federer, Djokovic, and Nadal. The term Big Three can also apply to basically anything that's had a lot of popularity, and has been iconic for a while. Let's go over to another big three, which is gaming consoles. The most iconic trio that a lot of people know is the trio of PlayStation, Xbox, and the Nintendo Switch. I would name many more examples of big three trios, but I'll just leave it at this. Thank you for watching.